What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and I'm back at it again with the Warhammer 40K lore. And today, I am in need of your guys' help. We give you guys lore, and you guys indulge in it. The Warhammer 40K universe is a very grimdark universe, and it really helps to get immersed into the lore when you're playing your games. It makes each much more battle that much more epic, especially if you come up with your own custom fan chapters or Xenos alliances or enclaves or org warlords, that kind of thing, because the Warhammer 40k universe is really great for having your own custom lore into it. That is exactly what I've been doing for the past 2-3 years with my Celestial Sun lore, my own take on the 11th Legion. So if you guys don't know about that, I do have a playlist on it. I think there's like 20 something videos on it, all talking about my 11th Legion. And I'm kind of stuck. For the longest time, I've been contemplating on rewriting the lore when it comes to the Edict of Obliteration. What that is when the Emperor decided that the 11th Legion wasn't compliant, or they were traitorous, or something along those lines that made them get terminated from the Imperium. So much so that any likeness, symbols, anything from that Legion has been completely erased from history. So for such an event to take place, I really need something jaw-dropping, something really epic, and so much so on a grand scale that it really shakes apart the Space Marine legions. When this happened, the Adeptus Custodes, the Sisters of Silence, and the Space Wolves were sent to execute the Battle Brothers from the 11th Legion, so it was a great battle that took place. And apparently, rumor has it that the Ultramarines chapter grew in rank after that battle. So, there's a few things you can infer from this. One, not all of the Space Marines from this Legion died. Some of them were compliant to the Emperor and maybe betrayed their own Legion, and then they got inducted into the Ultramarines, which is why they got so many more Space Marines into their Legion. On top of this, there's most likely a lot more that happened, behind the scenes, and that's what I'm trying to fill in with my own personal Legion here. So, if you guys have been keeping track, following this journey with me with my own fan chapter, you know that the 11th Legion is very compliant. My Primarch, Alec Alrich, owes his life to the Emperor because on his homeworld he was saved by the Emperor. So when he first got inducted to become the Primarch of the 11th Legion, the Celestial Sons, his goal was to help the Emperor, accomplish his goals of reunifying all of the human worlds to make the Imperium prosper, etc. So he was a very, very loyalist, Legion loyalist Primarch. So something had to happen here where he would, stray from the path, doubt the Emperor's ways. Something had to happen as to where they would get the Edict of Obliteration enacted upon them. And that something has been bothering me for a while. So this is what I have so far. I'm calling it the Fractured Sun Incident because it literally broke apart the Legion into multiple variables. You had the Loyalist 11th Legion Space Marines that said, you know what, yeah, the Emperor's right, I surrender, I'll follow you. And they annexed themselves from the Celestial Sons, and those are the ones that got put into the Ultramarines. There was another faction of the 11th Legion that basically they didn't like Alec Alrich. They had their own mentalities. They were also tainted by chaos early on, so they defected and they became the chaotic warband known as the Infernal Sons. This was led by Dante Echo, which was, I guess you could say, the number 3 Space Marine behind Sol Oros. So obviously you got the Primarch, and you got Sol Oros, the Lord Commander, and then you had Dante Echo. So between Dante Echo and Sol Oros, there was a huge rivalry going there, and that kind of also stems from his descent to chaos. I will be covering that in a separate video, focusing on Dante Echo and why he went into chaos and how he ended up building the chaotic warband of the Infernal Sons and his metamorphosis, so to speak, from Chaos Space Marine to almost a completely mechanized demon. Again, that's a video for another time. And then you have the survivors of the, I guess you call them the Renegades of the 11th Legion, the ones that stuck following to their Primarch, survived the Edict of Obliteration, and managed to basically splinter off from the Imperium and be their own thing, although they were heavily downsized from their original numbers. So again, this is called the Fractured Sun Incident, which eventually puts the 11th Legion against the Scissors of Silence, the Adeptus Custodes, and the Space Wolves. All this took place on the Forge world of Eldia. Now, during this time, Eldia was actually corrupted by chaos. There was a distress signal that went out, and the 11th Legion picked it up and went over to investigate. But when they got there, they noticed that the moons of Eldia, there was no life on it. The actual Forge Road of Eldia, all the lights, all the hustle and bustle of creating dreadnoughts, I believe that's what they were doing here. Nothing could be seen, nothing could be heard. So Alric split his force into two. So Oros led a small elite team to find out what's going on the moons, and the mainstay of the force went out to figure out what was going on in the main forge. So it turned out that it was a Nergal invasion. Nergal had corrupted some of the Skitarii, and this corruption basically just slowly took control of the whole world, making all the human population into zombies. The Skitarii were an amalgamation of machine and demon, and it was a hard-fought battle. But again, the Space Marines, they came out on top, surprise, surprise, and they managed to uncover a few secrets from the Skitarii. And one of those secrets was that Mars was harboring an ancient star god, the Void Dragon. This Catan that potentially could be the source for the machine spirit was under the control of the Adeptus Mechanicus. So they thought, they being the 11th Legion, they thought that perhaps they were going to use the machine spirit and the Catan to take control of all the machinery throughout the Imperium, stage a coup d'etat, overthrow the Emperor, and essentially be the top guns in this Imperial world or galaxy. So because of this, Alaric was he was shocked, so he sent a message to the Emperor to warn him of what could be going on. The Emperor didn't believe him. He thought that Alric was behind the massacre on the moons of Eldia, the massacre of all the population on the Forge world, and that they killed all the Skitarii and put the blame on them. On top of this, since there was a Nergal infestation, he thought that the 11th Legion was utilizing the dark powers of chaos or the dark arts to give them an upper hand against the Skitarii and against the Imperium. So because of this, this is why the Emperor attacked. In my opinion, this isn't that great, because like the Emperor could just be like, oh yeah, it's no big deal, don't worry about it. You've been a good Primarch, you've been following orders. I'm gonna let this thing slide, or don't talk about it, keep it on the down low. I don't feel like this is such a big event or a big uncovering that the Emperor would just obliterate an entire Space Marine Legion. But in your opinion, what else could I add to this to make it more believable? I'm not entirely sure how to work the lore around this, that the Emperor could be like, you know what, that's the last straw. You're feeding lies into the Imperium, you're amassing too much power, something along those lines, as to what would make this make more sense. Because yeah, the Space Marines did nothing wrong. Eldia sent a distress signal, they took care of the Nergal infestation, and they just happened to come across, you know, files of the Void Dragon on Mars. Yeah, it was huge news, so he wanted to tell the Emperor about it, but obviously the Emperor already knew about the Void Dragon because there's like rumors and theories that the Emperor was the one that killed the Void Dragon, or at least incapacitated the Void Dragon during the Middle Ages on Earth, and somehow had him sent over to Mars, and maybe that was the huge bargaining chip that allied Mars and Terra together to be one huge galactic power. Yeah, so I need your help, guys. During the Fractured Sun incident, like I said, the Sisters of Battle, the Adeptus Custodes, and the Space Wolves all attack the main force on Eldia of the Celestial Sons. During this time, Nergal infected Bellicrax, so Bellicrax was already falling to the powers of chaos. Dante Echo was also already kind of aligned with the Chaos Gods, so he was just amassing more followers to his cause, and Varos was becoming the right-hand man to Dante Echo, and this was kind of the main three that would create the Infernal Sons. Also, Vicus Rowen, which was another captain of the 11th Legion, he ends up fighting two Adeptus Custodes and Bjorn and just gets wrecked. Now, yeah, he's a captain, yes, he's strong, but going up against Adeptus Custodes and Bjorn the Fell-Handed, you know, nobody's gonna come out of that alive. So he was left for dead, just on the verge of dying, but luckily he was interred into a Contemptor Dreadnought, so that's going to be its own short story. And then you have the epic battle between Alec Alrich, the Light of the Imperium, the Primarch of the 11th Legion, fighting against Leman Russ. Now this is going to be its own crazy battle, its own story, and I'm really looking forward to it, but I need to better flesh out what the Edict of Obliteration is accusing of the 11th Legion to kind of, you know, make it more believable. So here's where I'm stuck, guys. I need your help. I got a bunch of bullet points that I do want to have included into the Fractured Sun incident, but again, I think I need more fuel to the fire, because as of right now, it doesn't seem that impending, I guess, if that makes sense. So here's where I need you guys to comment down below what I should add to this lore to make it more believable. Maybe I could add the whole Necron influence into the 11th Legion. Maybe they were already having some Catan shards in their possession, and that's utilizing Xenos technology or ancient technology. Maybe the Emperor already knew the power of the Catan since he knows about the Void Dragon, and he's like, yeah, if one of my sons already has a Catan shard, they're too powerful to have this power, and maybe Alric doesn't want to give away this power. Maybe that would be more like adding more to this as to why the Emperor's losing faith in Alec Alaric. So again, guys, let me know, and we'll go from there. I'll keep the conversation going down in the comments, and expect more lore to come out. This has been the Sound Alchemist, hoping you guys can give me some epic answers, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.